The Vexary ambassador smiled as he watched a news feed from Earth. 3 human leaders lay dead. The president of the United Earth Council, the admiral of the Human Defense Fleet, the secretary of Colonial Affairs, all killed within the same hour by assassins who had vanished like ghosts into the night. Ambassador Kreth clicked his mandibles together in satisfaction. The humans had been warned. They had been told to stop their expansion into the Outer Rim territories. They had been given every chance to turn back and accept their place as a minor species in the galaxy. But they had refused. They had pushed forward with their colonies and their mining operations and their endless ambition. Now they would learn what happened to species that defied the Vexary Empire. The assassinations had been planned for months. The Vexary Intelligence Service had studied human security protocols. They had identified weaknesses. They had inserted agents into human society years in advance. And when the order came, those agents had struck with perfect precision. Kreth expected the humans to panic. He expected them to beg for peace. He expected them to finally understand that they were nothing compared to an empire that had ruled 1,000 worlds for 10,000 years. He did not expect what happened next. On Earth, in the emergency command bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Vice Admiral Sarah Chun took command of the Human Defense Fleet. She was not supposed to be in charge. She was 4th in the chain of command. But the first 3 were dead, and someone had to lead. Chun looked at the officers gathered around her. Their faces showed shock and grief and anger. Some of them had served under Admiral Morrison for 20 years. Some of them had known the president personally. All of them wanted answers. Chun gave them something better. She gave them a target. The intelligence was already coming in. Human agents across the galaxy were reporting back. The Vexary had not covered their tracks as well as they thought. Within 6 hours, Chun had confirmation. The assassination order had come directly from Emperor Vexeth himself. Chun called for the activation of Protocol Omega. In military academies across the galaxy, young officers studied human history with a mix of fascination and horror. Humans were strange creatures. They came from a death world where everything tried to kill them. They had spent their entire existence fighting each other in wars of incredible brutality. They had developed weapons that could crack planets and poisons that could kill entire species. And then they had stopped. When humanity reached the stars, they had chosen peace. They had built their colonies without conquering anyone. They had traded fairly with every species they met. They had joined the Galactic Council and followed its rules without complaint. Many species assumed this meant humans had become soft. Many species thought the ancient stories about human violence were exaggerated. Many species believed that modern humans were just like everyone else. They were wrong. Protocol Omega was the plan humans hoped they would never have to use. It was designed for one scenario only: the complete and total destruction of an enemy who had proven themselves beyond reason. An enemy who had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. The assassination of human leaders by a foreign power was that line. Within 12 hours, the Human Defense Fleet began to move. 200 warships departed from Earth orbit. Another 300 joined them from colonies across human space. Every ship capable of combat was called to active duty. Every reserve officer was summoned back to service. The Vexary watched this mobilization with amusement. Their own fleet numbered over 5,000 ships. Their empire contained nearly 200 inhabited worlds. What could 500 human ships possibly do against such power? Ambassador Kreth sent a message to the human government. He offered peace. He offered to let the matter rest if the humans agreed to withdraw from the Outer Rim territories permanently. He expected them to accept. Admiral Chun sent back a one-word response: no. The human fleet entered hyperspace. Their destination was the Vexer system, the heart of the Empire, the homeworld of the species that had murdered their leaders. Emperor Vexeth received the news with something close to disbelief. No species had ever been foolish enough to attack the Vexor system directly. Even the greatest enemies of the Empire had known better than to strike at the homeworld itself. The defenses were too strong. The fleet was too large. The risk was too great. He ordered his defensive fleet to intercept the humans at the edge of the system. 2,000 ships against 500. The outcome seemed certain. It was not the outcome he expected. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. They did not slow down. They did not attempt to negotiate. They did not even respond to hails from the Vexory commander. They simply opened fire. Human weapons technology was different from everyone else in the galaxy. Other species used plasma weapons and energy beams and projectiles made from exotic materials. Humans used something far simpler. They used kinetic impactors launched at relativistic speeds. They used nuclear warheads enhanced with antimatter cores. They used weapons designed to cause maximum destruction with minimum complexity. The first wave of Vexory ships simply ceased to exist. 300 vessels vanished in a wall of fire and radiation. The defensive formation broke apart as captains tried to maneuver away from the deadly human guns. But humans had another advantage that other species often forgot. Humans were not afraid to die. The human ships drove forward into the heart of the Vexory formation. They took damage. They lost shields and weapons and engines, but they kept fighting. Ship after ship sacrificed itself to take out Vexory vessels that outclassed them in every way. By the time the human fleet reached the inner system, they had lost 200 ships. But the Vexory had lost over 1,000. The defensive fleet was in ruins. The path to the homeworld was open. Emperor Vexith watched from his palace as human warships entered orbit around Vexor Prime. He had called for reinforcements from across the Empire, but they were days away. He had ordered the remaining defensive ships to attack, but there were not enough left to matter. For the first time in his long life, the Emperor of 1,000 worlds felt fear. Admiral Chun appeared on every communication channel in the Vexor system. Her face was calm. Her voice was steady. She spoke in simple words that needed no translation. You killed our leaders. You thought we would surrender. You thought we would beg for mercy. You were wrong. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not beg. Humanity answers aggression with overwhelming force. Your empire has existed for 10,000 years. Today it ends. The bombardment began. Human ships did not target military installations first. They did not attack defensive platforms or weapons factories or shipyards. They targeted infrastructure, power plants, water treatment facilities, communication networks, transportation hubs. Within hours, Vexor Prime had been thrown back to a pre-industrial age. Billions of Vexory citizens found themselves without power or clean water or any way to communicate with the rest of their world. Then the human ground forces arrived. Humanity had another secret that other species preferred not to think about. Human soldiers were the most effective ground combatants in the known galaxy. They could fight in any environment. They could survive on almost any planet. They were stronger and faster and more resilient than most species expected. And they were very, very angry. The Emperor's palace fell within 3 days. Vexith himself was captured trying to escape through a hidden tunnel. He was brought before Admiral Chun in chains. The Emperor demanded to know what the humans wanted. He offered territory. He offered resources. He offered to dissolve the Empire itself if they would only stop the destruction. Chun looked at him with cold eyes. You ordered the death of our leaders. You thought you could kill our people without consequence. You thought you were above retaliation. We are going to show the entire galaxy what happens to those who attack humanity. The trial was broadcast across every inhabited world in the galaxy. Every species watched as the Emperor of the Vexory was found guilty of murder and conspiracy and crimes against humanity. Every species watched as he was sentenced. But humans did not execute Emperor Vexith. They did something worse. They let him live. They stripped him of his title and his power and his empire. They reduced him to a common prisoner. They put him in a cell where he would spend the rest of his long life, watching as the empire he had built was dismantled piece by piece. The Vexury colonies were given a choice. They could join the Galactic Council as independent worlds, or they could face the same fate as the Homeworld. Every single colony chose independence. The message spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. Humanity had destroyed an empire of 1,000 worlds in less than a month. They had done it with a fraction of the forces available to them, and they had done it without mercy. Admiral Chun gave one final address to the galaxy before the human fleet returned home. We came to the stars in peace. We built our colonies without conquering anyone. We traded fairly and followed the rules. We did everything right. And still, you sent assassins to murder our leaders. Let this be a lesson to everyone watching. Humanity will always prefer peace. But if you force us to war, we will end you. There will be no negotiations. There will be no surrender. There will only be destruction so complete that your species will never threaten anyone again. Remember what happened to the Vexury. Remember what happened to their empire. And choose peace. The galaxy remembered. In the centuries that followed, humanity continued to expand across the stars. They continued to trade and build and explore. They continued to offer friendship to every species they encountered. But no one ever forgot what they were capable of. No one ever sent assassins again. The memorial to the 3 murdered leaders stood in the center of Earth's capital city. Every year, millions of humans came to pay their respects. They remembered the president who had led them through hard times. They remembered the admiral who had kept them safe. They remembered the secretary who had built their colonies. And they remembered the lesson that their deaths had taught the galaxy. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not soft. Humanity had simply chosen to be kind. But kindness was not the same as weakness. And those who could not tell the difference would learn the truth in the hardest way possible. The stars belong to everyone. But there are some lines that could never be crossed. And humanity would make sure the galaxy never forgot that fact.